I'm just like, hey, we're looking at this stuff.
We're recording.
We're good? Good. Hi, this is Eric Martin with Board Game Geek. I'm here with Michael Coe from Gamelyn Games, looking at a prototype, Fantasy Frontier. You say prototype, but look at all this wood stuff. Where's all these wood components come from? You got giant zeppelins, apparently, and
got nice wooden airships. Put a lot of effort into the prototype. Just want to make sure that the game is a pattern recognition game, and so I noticed in some early prototypes that depending on how the tiles were looking, they were making it a bit difficult to see the patterns, and so I had to kind of take the extra step and put a little bit of love in this.
So, what do we have in here besides love?
Fantasy Frontier is a 2 to 4 player game of it's airships and exploration with cartography. The primary element of the game is going to be driven in the pattern recognition element. That's going to be done via the tile placement, which you see here. It's got some support with worker placement as well as resource management. So every player is going to have an airship player board and a crew of airship pioneers. Each turn you're going to be placing these pioneers on different spots throughout the deck to perform different jobs. Your cartographers are going to be providing you these
I point out, deck is in the actual deck of the ship, not a card deck.
Yes.
That was initially when you said that, I was like, what? There's no deck in here. But no, yes, they have little spaces here, so you can determine exactly what they do.
Yeah, exactly. So, for instance, if you send one of your pioneers into the study to do some research and cartography, they'll be providing you with the map cards. This does come from an actual deck, so the players will have a hand of these. The scouts will be providing them the terrain tiles that you see on here, and then throughout the play, they're going to be placing them down on this community board, trying to recreate the patterns that you see on these, and that's going to score them a certain amount of victory points. That's the goal of the game. It is a race to reach a certain threshold of victory points. You're going to be able to score points also by disembarking your workers down to the land below. They'll collect up resources that you can keep on your ship. You'll use those later to build some townships. Those will score you points, bring in a reoccurring stream of resources. And then there's some aerial combat, which is a nice take that element. The game has a nice meatiness of a Euro game, but it has the approachability and the simple setup of a tile placement game. You literally open up the box, pick your players, and get going. The setup is super quick, but then when you get into it, it's got all the meat.
So we are trying to find these map, this landscape layout.
You actually be trying to create them.
That's what I was wondering. I was wondering, like, well, if they're already here, what are we doing? We're terraforming everything?
There's a little bit of terraforming. You can actually send a couple of your workers to drop some explosives down in the ground to remove stuff. But you start with an empty board, and then you'll have your scouts that will, when you're scouting across the land, they'll provide you the tiles, and you'll be placing them turn by turn. Each player will be able to place the certain tiles in efforts to create those. But because we're all building on the same board, you can kind of mess with my designs and whatnot. And then a good way to kind of slow me down or kind of a good catch-up mechanic is the aerial combat that comes into the game, where when you get your airships close enough to each other, you can get into some pretty awesome dogfights.
So what's the rundown of a turn there?
So the rundown of a turn, essentially you'll start off, you'll reset your workers, you'll have these different places to put them. You got 5 pioneers that you'll be placing. You'll kind of decide, okay, I'm going to send a couple of people to scout, I'm going to have one person pilot and one person exit the ship. So then you do your scout, you do your piloting actions, you move your airship around, you get your guy that exits the ship, you're going to be rolling the resource die to pick up some wood. You'll collect that up onto your ship. I've now reached enough resources to actually build my town, but I'm going to have to wait and do that on a future turn. And then my scouts will provide me a random draw from this bag, take a look at my tiles, and then off turn, I'll have a hand of cards here, of these map cards, and then off turn I'm looking at my cards, looking at what's already on the board and how I can kind of work this around, and then next turn I'll be able to place them down and continue like that.
And how does it end? What do we?
So once you reach a certain threshold of victory points, that's going to trigger the end game, and then you'll add up what points you have. You'll add up some leftover resources you hadn't been able to use up yet, and then the highest points wins.
And what's the release timeline? What are you looking at there? What do you need to do?
Yeah, we're launching it up on Kickstarter September 2nd, so hope to see you guys there. It's a super exciting Kickstarter page, a really exciting video, so check it out, and hopefully you like it, and we can bring this game to the market.
All right, thanks for the overview, Michael.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Eric.